Hello, and welcome to the third video in this series of videos I am doing on the SDR, which covers 100 kilohertz to 1.7 gigahertz. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up SDR Sharp to listen to shortwave broadcasts. They typically use AM or lower sideband or upper sideband, depending on what you're trying to tune into. As you can see, I'm back in the SDR folder that has the SDR Sharp program. This is probably one of the biggest tips I can give to you. You want to hit the back arrow and hit it one more time and get to this SDR install folder. You want to right click this and left click on copy, and I would paste it here probably 5 times. Just have 5 copies of it. The reasoning behind this is it's an exercise in insanity to use just one SDR Sharp install to try to do everything with. It's so much better to, for instance, the default one, I'll right click it and rename it, and I'll call it SDR Sharp space dash space VHF, and one of these other ones I'll right click on and rename to SDR Sharp space dash space shortwave. But let me fix that H. The reasoning behind this is, for instance, you might have a local police department which uses trunk tracking. So you would have to use a program called UniTrunker to tune in to the control frequency and have it set up to communicate with SDR Sharp to automatically tune to the frequency being used by the group that you wish to follow. So you might have an SDR Sharp for that, SDR Sharp trunked, and you might have other needs too. You might want to just track aircraft or whatever, and there are plenty of tutorials online on how to do that with SDR Sharp. But anyway, we're now going to double click the shortwave folder and double click SDR Sharp and then open SDR Sharp. And as you can see, it's still where it was from the previous video, but we have to do a couple of settings here in order for it to work on shortwave. Namely, under radio, you'll probably want to use AM and go to configure, and at this point the sampling mode has been on quadrature sampling. You need to change this to direct sampling Q branch, and as you can see, the boxes for offset tuning and tuner AGC are grayed out, as is the RF gain slider. But the RTL AGC box can be checked or unchecked. You'll more than likely want to have this checked so you get a bit further range with your shortwave setup. So we'll hit close, and we'll go over to the time signal, which is at 5,000 kilohertz or 5 megahertz. When you're talking shortwave, it's better to say the frequency out in kilohertz instead of megahertz. So instead of saying 5 megahertz, it's preferred to say 5,000 kilohertz. So we will go ahead and click the start button and unmute the audio. And you hear it ticking away in the background, and I see the time's about to change, so I'll be silent here for a moment.
At the tone, 7 hours, 15 minutes, coordinated universal time.
Now, I'm going to hit the zoom slider, and as you can see, I'm perfectly in tune right in the middle of the peak for the broadcast. So let's zoom back out here. Let's just see what's going on out here. Here's one at 4840 kilohertz. You can take your mouse pointer and try to put the line in the middle of the peak and then left click and that'll tune it. You can also do the same thing down here in the waterfall. But I like to try to leave this here in the middle of everything, and I'll take my mouse pointer and I'll put it out here and hold down the left mouse button and just move my mouse left and right to tune in what I want to hear. So let's do that.
Circumstance, otherwise it's going to be long and
Fine-tune it. There we go.
to get complete control over.
So there's 4840 kilohertz.
You would need some kind of a cyber Pearl Harbor where the economy would
Sounds like a
maybe for
conspiracy
little while.
theory broadcast.
National Guard troops arrived
Wait,
in
no.
Baltimore
Let me mute
shortly
this for just a
after.
second. We'll see if there's any hams talking. One of the best frequency ranges to find ham radio operators is usually 3,000 to 5,000 kilohertz. So I'll drag over here to the 3,000 range. As you can see, it's quite noisy. So we'll want to go over here to the range slider and lower it. It looks like about -50 would be a better point instead of -70, so we'll drop that down to -50. Now, in this range, sometimes a ham will be broadcasting on AM, but most times they're going to be using lower sideband. To tell if the broadcast is that, you will see this peak over here is a bad example actually, but you'll see here in these little spikes, you'll see one that kind of a little bit more slowly moves up and down, and that should be a ham operator using sidebands. Let me go up here to in here and we'll see. I'm thinking right in here are a couple. Yeah, there's a strong one right there. But see how the peak goes up when he's talking and then down, up and down. So we know that that's lower sideband. So we will enable LSB, and I'll kind of try to get over here to that peak. This is where I'll use my zoom slider quite a lot to try to fine tune. So let's raise it a little, and you can see I'm off just a little bit. Let me change these to zeros here. And before I enable the audio, you'll probably notice that I'm going to be fine-tuning. Sometimes you don't have to mess with these hertz numbers, but sometimes with sideband broadcast you will. You might have to use like 0.1, 0.15, 0.2, 0.25, and so on. But you try to fine-tune it to where they sound normal, because they're going to sound a bit garbled until you get it just right. So I'll go ahead and unmute it, and you'll see that I'll be trying to fine-tune it when that stronger broadcast comes on.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's plenty of nerds on frequency listening.
See, that's actually pretty good right there. Here's another one here at about 3832. So we'll just click here and lower it down to that. 33 rather. Yeah, you can sit and listen to hams all night. They talk about all kinds of stuff. You know, the sky's the limit. Sometimes you'll run into some of the weirdest conversations you've ever heard. Another popular range for ham broadcasts are like in the 7,000 kilohertz range, and another is the 14,000 kilohertz range. As you can see, we can't see too much here at the bottom line, so we actually need to raise the range up to about -70. Let me mute the audio for just a second here. Just recently, Nepal had a very bad earthquake, and the ham guys were using, I believe it was 14.215 and 14.205 to kind of do a global broadcast to get messages back and forth to Nepal, and I think they were even trying to send them ham radios so they could communicate until they get their communications restored, which was kind of cool. But usually in this range, instead of lower sideband, they use upper sideband. So far, I haven't really seen any activity. I might be too high here. Let's go to this range. So, like, one of these Nepal frequencies was for non-emergency, and the other one was for emergency only. But as you can see, there's not much activity going on here tonight. So let's listen to a few broadcasts, which are more than likely AM, and drop the zoom back down. I am in the middle of the United States. Sometimes I can hear Radio Australia on the other side of the planet on 10960. Looks like maybe they're coming in. Let me unmute it and we'll have a listen here. I'll zoom in a little as well. Yeah. They're not coming in tonight, so let's just explore around here a little. Let's see, that's probably just a birdie. Maybe some sort of encrypted transmission. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, there are 4 or 5 mobile home trailer lots that were very viable.
As you explore shortwave, this voice you're hearing now, you're going to hear a lot on a lot of different frequencies. Let me mute the audio format here for just a moment. Yeah, there's a lot of Jesus on shortwave. I think the biggest reason, it's not so much to save any souls here in the United States, though that's one of the intentions, but I think the bigger intention is to is to spread Christianity to the Muslim countries, and a lot of those countries use shortwave radios quite a lot, so it makes sense to broadcast on shortwave to get your message across. Let me unmute the audio here.
Lines in the street? It's not.
I'm not entirely sure what this is. It might be a DRM broadcast. Let me mute the audio again. It's still a kind of new technology. It hasn't really taken off yet, but a lot of broadcasters are going to digital shortwave broadcasts. In order to listen to them, typically I believe they use upper sideband, and you have to pipe the audio through a program to decrypt it. As you know, with police and fire and EMS, you would use something like DSD Plus. With this, there's a program called Dream, which you can pipe the audio through and it will decrypt it. I don't have it presently installed, so we can't decrypt this, assuming that that is in fact a DRM shortwave broadcast. But let me unmute the audio and we'll keep exploring here. There's a strong one over here. What do we got? Oh, there's a Spanish numbers lady. You might hear that every once in a while. Let me mute her. Not configure. Mute. Nobody really knows what these are. More than likely, they're broadcasting to spies, maybe here in the United States. It's hard to tell what country they're from. Obviously a Spanish country, probably some Central American country, maybe Mexico, maybe Cuba, who knows. But it's kind of interesting to listen to them. Let me unmute the audio and we'll explore a little bit more here. I wish I'd stop hitting configure when I hit unmute. On these ones that sound funny, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they are, obviously, but a lot of times they're probably submarines. They could be weather buoys. Heck, they could even be doing satellite communications. Who knows exactly without researching the frequency that they're broadcasting on. But a lot of times you can go to a search website and just type 85.0, it's probably actually 85.05, but you can type 85.05 or 85.04 space KHZ and hit enter, and sometimes you can find reports of broadcasts on that frequency and find out what it actually was. Let me here's a strong transmission. There's another off to the side, I just noticed. Yeah, no way to know what that is. Could be a submarine getting ready to shoot a torpedo at something for all I know. Okay, now we got some broadcasts coming into range.
for some of you youngins, just have patience.
A lot of these standard shortwave broadcasts, you'll see the kilohertz will end with either a 0 or a 5.
And he looked and behold, the bush burned with fire and the bush was not consumed. Now you tell me, Moses is in the desert and he's
Sounds like
walking
some
around-
more
and I'm sure there
Jesus
might
to
have been
me.
lightning strikes and storms.
I'll check out these other ones.
No one's gonna believe it. It's always going to go because the bullies don't keep the time.
What should we do with that recording if you get it?
Well, it depends on the
I
circumstances.
can't quite make out what they're saying with these headphones.
Del día por los 1180 AM, por nuestras frecuencias de onda corta y por martinoticias.com.
Side to see this great sight and why the bush is not burnt. Coming to you from Water of Life Ministries in Plano, Texas.
A lot of Jesus. Jesus, Jesus,
You
Jesus.
can kill innocent people in order to do their job.
There's that one guy again. He sounds like an old guy from the Bronx whenever, that's what I think whenever I hear his
For all of
voice.
this tragedy. And the ones who are
You
gonna
need a
pay the
kid.
money
Forget
are the
about it.
ones who've been
Need Jesus.
involved in it.
Anyway.
Not right and so forth and so on, but they had not a lake.
We go back to 5,000 kilohertz to the time signal. Let me mute the audio for just a moment. When you're looking for shortwave broadcasts, if you're like, searching on your computer, a lot of the times are shown in coordinated time, UTC. UTC is Greenwich, I believe that's the correct pronunciation. GMT. It's also called Zulu. But one of the cool things you can do with your Windows clock, and I've already done this, if you right-click it and go to Adjust Date Time and go to the Additional Clocks tab, you can check this box to show this clock and select UTC, Coordinated Universal Time, and a good name to give it is UTC // GMT. Hit Apply and OK, and now you can left click on your clock and the smaller clock is Coordinated Universal Time, so we now know it's 7:32 a.m. Friday, whereas my local time's 2:32. So let's unmute and see if I can find something interesting here. We already heard that, the Conspiracy Theory Network. Let me just go up to about 15,000 kilohertz here. Dig around and see if we can find anything. See if I can find a good signal. There's a few bands coming up. Nothing on that one.
How did you get out of the bathtub after falling 4 feet on your back? Well, that's a...
Okay, there's stronger broadcasts.
New World Order boys decided to erase that country from the map. They carved up the country.
1, 0, 2.
Spanish lady. Let me mute the audio here. But yeah, I was kind of hoping we could pick up some Radio Australia. I like to listen in on them. It's kind of one of the beauties of shortwave is you get a different perspective from international news broadcasts and music that you just would be hard pressed to get otherwise. Before I close this video, one thing I need to tell you, and if you remember back from the first video, there are two antenna connectors, one covering 100 kilohertz to 25 megahertz, and the other one doing 25 megahertz to 1.7 gigahertz. When you get into that range of, actually instead of 25, it really should say 24 megahertz, but regardless of that, what you start seeing happening is stuff being broadcast at lower frequencies is kind of, in a way, rebroadcasting itself at a higher frequency. It's just the circuitry of these SDRs which do that, but let's see, I'm getting into the 24, and as you can see, it's almost throwing up the band we would be seeing down at in the 3000 range, which I'll go to real quick. See, it's kind of this noisy band. Let's go back to 23, 24. See, there's 23, there's 24. So yeah, we're kind of getting a ghost of it. Yeah, here it is in there. If, for instance, you wanted to hear an AM broadcast past, say, 24 megahertz, such as Citizens Band Radio, instead of using your shortwave version, which, let me close the shortwave version here, and we'll hit the back arrow. Instead of using that, you'll probably want to use one of your ones that you have set up for higher frequencies. So I'll use the VHF one here. And I'll set it to AM, and we'll go to about 26 on to do it. And hit the start button. And as you can see, this is much quieter. And the reason is, right here, it's using quadrature sampling instead of direct sampling of the Q branch. So maybe I can find somebody talking on CB, maybe. I'm not really seeing any really big peaks. I mean, here might be one right here. Let me unmute the audio and we'll have a listen here for a moment. Zoom in a little bit. Not really hearing anything. And there are hams in these areas sometimes talk. It just, depends on the time of day. It's just noise that is here. Let me zoom back out. But yeah, see, we're now getting into the 24 megahertz range, and what you're going to see happen is everything kind of drops off once you get past 24, and it's because you're using that different sampling mode, so you can't hear any shortwave. Well, anyway, that should cover it for this video. The next video will be the last video in this series. It's just going to quickly talk about plugins, give you a few tips on installing a plugin, and just a little conclusion.